Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. I'm Bart Berger and I'll be your host for this edition of the Bowling University Profit Break. Thank you all for joining us. Our mission here at the university is to enrich people's lives personally and professionally, and the Profit Break is an outstanding opportunity on sharing insights on how to grow revenue, reduce costs, enrich yourself, your team, and your business. Now, if you're joining the Profit Break for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes and you're going to be well on your way to improving your profitability. Now, today we're joined by Bowling Alley Marketing, or BAM founder, Forest Schwartz. Forrest is a serial entrepreneur in the digital marketing space. He founded Top Line Growth in 2019, which ultimately led to the 2021 founding of BAM Bowling Alley Marketing. Now, BAM provides bowling centers with everything they need to succeed in promoting their center and getting more customers in the door. Now, in addition to his digital marketing business, he recently added Bowling Proprietor to his list of accolades. So, Forrest, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bart. Really excited to be here and really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, hey, look, first and foremost, let's talk about how did you get into the bowling proprietor space? Now, share a little bit your story. How did you join the ranks as bowling proprietor?
Sure. Yeah, so I was working with our mutual friend, Daniel Mowry. He has a center out in Carlisle, PA. He was one of my first clients when I had a generalist agency, so we worked with lots of small businesses. But Midway was, our best client, really helped them scale. We were there when he, doubled revenue. And an opportunity came up to purchase a center nearby, about an hour from us, and we partnered to acquire it. So I became a partner and a fellow proprietor.
Well, good. Well, welcome to the ranks. We're happy to have you in the bowling family and doing that. So for our viewers that maybe aren't familiar with your services, just tell us a little bit about BAM and kind of what you're providing to bowling centers around the country.
Sure. So really quick, are you familiar with the Pareto principle, Bart?
I am.
Okay. Well, just to reiterate, it's the old 80-20, that 20% of what you do provides 80% of the results. So we've just applied that towards all the different marketing things you can do. Working with Midway and a bunch of other types of businesses, we've kind of whittled it down that there's really only 20% of the stuff actually moves the needle. So because we can do that, we can bring down the cost, but still move the needle and get some results for clients by just focusing on those high impact things. So the high impact things that we're focused on today, something that you're a big proponent of, Bart, is the CRM platform. So we have a robust one of that we do a lot of work on the back end. Facebook ad management, Google ad management, as well as SEO, which we'll probably get into a little bit later. We also do some email marketing, graphic design, and now video editing as well.
Good. Well, I love that you've really simplified things and drilled it down to the high impact things at work. I think that's just brilliant. So let's take a step back at 30,000 feet, because I've heard you say before, and I personally am a subscriber to this, but I want you to share this with our viewers today, is that there's only 3 ways to grow revenue. Can you share those with us and talk a little bit about them?
Sure. Yeah. So to really simplify things, like you said, because we're not, sophisticated. We like to keep it simple. And when you have some constraints over your model and your mental model, it kind of helps you get a little more creative, counterintuitively. But there's really only 3 things that we found that work. The first one is to increase your average ticket. So, sometimes that's increasing prices, or it might be packaging a few things together, a few different product lines, so that people spend more when they come in. So that's the first one, is, if you can get a higher wallet share when they walk in the door, that's the first way to grow. The second one is visit frequency. So when we did math, we looked through the books of our centers, and we've talked to a few other proprietors. And believe it or not, the average annual visit frequency for a center is 1.5 times a year. So 2 times every 3 years is all someone comes in. So imagine just getting someone to come in one more time. It's a huge increase in revenue just from that small, action to get them to come in. And it's easier to get someone to come back in than it is to get someone new to come in for the first time. So that's one of the first areas we focus at, and we'll probably get into a little bit of how we actually do that. And then the last one is the one that people think of off the bat is just more new customers. So that's the third way.
Yeah, I love that, Forrest. You are preaching to the choir here to those of us at the university, because that's what we teach to as well. And while we may use a little different terminology, they really mean the same, that you can get a new guest to come see you, acquisition. You can get a guest to come more frequency, to building the frequency, or in either of those, you can increase the check average. And I love that you're keeping that simple in there. So let's talk a minute about the new guest. If we want to focus on that, because as you said, it's probably the top thing that people go to, and it is important, although probably one of the more costly items. What do you recommend as some tactics that you can share with folks today that are joining us about that new guest, or what we call that customer acquisition?
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the big things to take in mind, especially when marketing, is it all comes down to behavior, right? So what are people doing? And we want to insert ourselves in what they're already doing rather than trying to go against the grain. Fighting human nature, human behavior is difficult. So I like to try to do everything we can to go with that grain of what they're already doing. And so I picked up a stat, about a year or two ago, that the average person spends about 4 to 5 hours a day on their phone, which it just blows my mind. But that's what people, where they are. So the thing that I recommend most is get to people on their phone. So the two platforms we focus on most are Google. So that's going to be, with the AdWords and coming up with, they search, places to have fun with the family near me. You need to be coming up as one of those first options. And then Facebook's the other one. Facebook also owns Instagram, so you get those two together. But making sure you're popping up in their feed so that you're top of mind, and they might even be discovering you for the first time. But that's where they're spending their time. You might as well hit them there.
Yeah, good. So you talked about the couple of platforms there. What are some tactics that you're seeing, or what are centers today doing to market themselves?
Sure. So I'm a big fan of Facebook advertising. We'll get in a little bit into the post probably a little later on if we have time. But when it comes to the advertising, you just have such a big opportunity when it comes to targeting. Because Facebook is really just a huge data mine. All the things that you like, or you comment, or you interact, or you watch a video, they're tracking all of that, so they get a good picture about who their users are. And then as an advertiser, you get to use that. So instead of wasting your money on someone who has no interest in coming into your center, you can actually target and dial down into someone who's already interested in bowling, or someone who wants to have someone whose child has a birthday coming up. So you can cut straight through all the noise and get in front of like the perfect person with your ads, and your money just goes so much further.
Yeah, go ahead there. I'm sorry.
I was going to say one more that is working really well for us is YouTube. So we started doing some YouTube with video. Video has a little bit higher barrier to entry, so there's a lot less people doing it. It's tougher to make a video than certain other types of ads. But if you do like the pre-roll ads, the ones where you can skip it after 5 seconds, we're only paying 2 to 3 cents for clients per view. And that's for people who don't skip it. And it's nice because when you're doing video, you can build a bigger, better image of your brand, so that they see like, oh, this is a business that really has it together, and you can present yourself in the best light because no one else is doing it. So I really like those two.
Good, great tips there. So in marketing circles, we've kind of half-jokingly say 50% of all marketing works. The challenge is we just don't know which 50%. So how do we know if what we're doing is working? Is the tools and things that you're talking about, are they measurable? How does a small business, how do I know?
Sure. I mean, that's the million, or probably today the $1 billion question, right? Is what's working? In our industry is actually, I think, more difficult than a lot of others. Just because, someone sees an ad and comes in and has a drink and bowls a game, it's tough to tie that back. So we take a couple different steps. I mean, number one, if there's anything that you can do that is a purchase online, that's going to help a lot. So if you have any kind of online reservation system, or one of these POSs that has online ordering, that's the first one, because you can see where they came from and get that attribution. The second one is to focus on things that are a little bit larger ticket. So like if you have like an event, for instance, you can see where people came in. If you run an ad campaign to try to book, corporate events or holiday parties are coming up, you can run an ad campaign focused on that, and when they apply, that they came through that. So especially if you're running a campaign, you see a spike, that it went up based off of those efforts. So it's a lot of different stuff. You're trying to make it unique so that you can see the difference. So you got to measure your baseline, keep it specific, and then measure your new number that you got, and you can see the difference. I wish we had the luxury of being more like the e-commerce people today, but that's just not the case. So we got to just do our best and try to tie back as much as possible.
But what I hear you saying is, Forrest, the good news is in this digital space, there are actually some things we can do to quantify that. So we're not just guessing at which 50%. While it still may be a challenge, as small business operators, we can at least wrap our arms around and get some directional feed information on what's working.
Exactly. Yeah, you get indicators. And I mean, there's always the old fashioned, how did you hear about us? People still use that. It's a little more manual. You got to try to get your people to do it, but it still helps a lot. You can at least get something anecdotally working there for you.
Yeah. Now, in the early days of Facebook, we spent a lot of time talking about organic reach. It was all organic and it was free, and that was the best part of it. But I know now that I've heard you talk about you don't recommend spending a lot of time on organic posts any longer. Why is that? Tell us why that maybe it's not the best use of our time.
Sure. So, I mean, anyone who's in the stock market has seen Facebook's stock price lately. It's down. They're a publicly traded company. They got to find a way to make money. So they don't give stuff away for free like they used to. So before, where you could get anywhere from 10, 15, even maybe 20 at the peak of organic reach. So if you have 1,000 followers, 200 people see your posts. Today, that number is down to 2.2%. So for every 1,000 followers you have, only 22 people actually see the post. So a lot less people. So, most centers have, 2 to 5,000 or so followers. So, we're talking about 100 people seeing your posts. I don't tell people you can't do it, but it just doesn't get the same results that it used to. I still love seeing when people get a 300 game that gets posted, or, a picture of a kid's birthday party. But to put a lot of resources behind it, I just don't think is ideal. We deal with a limited amount of budget and resources. There's only so much money and time that can be spent towards marketing. So I tell my clients, hey, let's spend it over here instead. You can still do some of that if you want, but if we're trying to get the most bang for our buck, that's probably not the spot to do it.
Okay, so if we're not going to do the organic, you mentioned putting it over here. What should centers do instead? Where should we spend our resources and time in that Facebook?
Yeah, great question. So we've done mostly just moving it over to ad spend on the Facebook ads, or maybe some of the YouTube. We used to do it for clients, and then I started looking and digging into the numbers, and I told them to stop. I said, don't give me the money to do these posts and have us do it. I would rather you take that same amount of money and put it into advertising budget, because, Facebook is right now gets around a $4 CPM on average for what we're doing. That means for every $4 you spend, 1,000 people will see your ad. So, you can do the math. It's, somewhere almost 100,000 people for $500. It's just way more than that 22 people a pop for those posts. So I just put it straight back into ad spend.
Makes sense. Great tip. So I know that you focus on kind of a less is more and saying focus on the high impact items, but right now TikTok seems to be all the rage. And while it may be popular in with kind of pop culture, is it something that we should be in yet? Should we, as small business operators, specifically in bowling, should we be worried about TikTok and be a part of the conversation?
Yeah, so this is something we're testing the waters on. We're not fully in on it yet. We're going to see how it goes. I think long term it'll be up there with a Facebook, Instagram. It'll be a big player there because they have that ability to target and a lot of growing users. So it's something that we're dipping our toes into. But the biggest takeaway, honestly, that I've gotten from TikTok is to mimic your ads or your content after their style. So if you've ever seen, Facebook stories or Instagram reels or YouTube shorts, these are all just copies of the TikTok style of content. So TikTok took off over the last 2-3 years, and all the other social media platforms are just copying them and trying to be just like them. So you can ride that wave and get a little bit of a tailwind by copying their style of content because it's more engaged. So if you just take their exact style of the vertical video, it's quick 10-15 seconds, straight to the point. They have some of these they all use a lot of the same music tracks or the same voiceover, and just create your ads to mimic that style and then run them or all the other places you would, like the Facebook and Instagram, then you get a huge bang for the buck. So whether you're not on TikTok today is kind of TBD, but absolutely 100%, I would say copy their content style.
Yeah, I love that, Forrest. I hope our viewers today caught that, because that's a golden nugget there, is that you can be like TikTok without having to be on TikTok, right? To replicate the great things that they're doing there. That's brilliant, my friend. So, hey, we got time for one more question, and this question alone we could probably do a whole episode on, so I have to have you back. But I want to highlight this a little bit, if you can leave us today with a few tips with SEO, because it's something we're hearing a lot about, and I know it's important in the mix. So can you share with us a couple of SEO tactics? Where does that fit into the overall, marketing strategy?
Yeah, that's a great one, because it's really important. It's been around for a long time, and I think it's one of those things where people hear about it so often it kind of loses its punch, but it still plays more of a role today than it ever has. Like I said, people are on their phone 4 to 5 hours a day. If they want something, they're going to go to Google for it first. So one of the first things that I like to talk to clients about is how, more than likely, I'm not for everybody, but I'd say 9 out of 10 or more centers are already going to dominate when it comes to bowling. So if someone says bowling near me, most towns there's one center, maybe there's two, but there's a spot in those first results for 3. So you're going to come up in the first 3. Where the real opportunity is to spread out more into like the restaurant or bar or any other product lines you have, gaming, as well as like birthday parties, birthday party place near me, or corporate event venue. So there's these, pools of keywords, or these markets that are much broader. But if you can just take a small piece of a bigger pie, it's going to be a huge payoff. And I think that most centers, have it dialed in when it comes to bowling, but they're missing these other, what do we say, like ancillary keywords that are right next to them that they could easily get business on. So a lot of that comes down to including it in your SEO plan. So, if you have your list of keywords that you want to target, make sure that things like birthday parties, team events, corporate events, all these things are built into your website for when it comes to the content, and then you can start ranking for those and picking up that business. It's just a huge opportunity. You could do a lot of the work in a week or two and start seeing those results down the road.
Yeah, great stuff there. Well, Forrest, thank you so much for joining us. Continued success with your bowling center, and continued success to you and BAM and all the great things you're doing for our industry, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been great.
Awesome. Well, hey, gang, as we wrap up another edition of the Bowling University Profit Break, remember that when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next time for another great episode. If you'd like to connect with Forrest and learn more about BAM and how you can reach him at forrest@bowlinalleymarketing.com. Also, you and your team can watch any of our previous episodes 24/7 by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. The Profit Break is content available when you want it, and we have new episodes premiering every month. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.